Little do we know, Curaçao is actually a birding paradise. Our island is strategically located close to the Caribbean coast of South America, and the major migratory routes are on either side of us. So besides the resident birds and seabirds that breed on the island, we also get a lot of visitors from the south and many migrants from the north. And because our island has a steady, semi-arid climate, visitors can enjoy birding throughout the year. Curaçao has two types of wetlands: the saltwater wetlands, including shallow saline pools, salinas, and mangrove-fringed inner bay areas, and freshwater wetlands, often modified by the construction of dams or the outflow of treated wastewater. In this documentary, we will show you a few of the more well-known wetlands that Curaçao has to offer, and we will show you the best way that you yourself can visit these spots to enjoy the diversity of birds that Curaçao has. A general safety tip when you go birding is not to bring any valuables except for your binoculars and camera, and don't leave anything in your car. That is the safest way to go. The characteristics of size, head, legs, and feet of birds are often used for making distinctions between broad types of birds like terns, ducks, hawks, hummingbirds, warblers, and others. When we speak of the bill, we mean the beak. When distinguishing between similar, closely related species, one may have to look for differences in color or pattern of plumage.
Hi Robin, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I came with a couple of students today and we were wondering if you would take us bird watching.
Certainly. We're here at the sewage treatment plant. Curaçao has in general, most of the surface water is salty water. At the sewage treatment plant we have pools with fresh water all year round. And so we'll see a different kind of birds, amongst others, that we may see in the other pools.
Klein Hofje is a wastewater purification plant at Piscadera. It is a small plant with several basins of fresh water. In the dry season, when there is a lack of fresh water elsewhere on the island, Klein Hofje is often booming with birds. You may see many ducks, egrets, herons, cormorants, and other aquatic birds. Once it starts raining and the water collects in other parts of the island, you notice that the number of birds at Klein Hofje drops because the birds are no longer dependent on the water there, and they venture out to other parts of the island, only to return to Klein Hofje when drought sets in again.
Now, if you look there at the wall, you see two different species. One with the dark pink legs, black and white, those are black-necked stilts. The other one with the yellow legs are called yellowlegs. There are two species of yellowlegs, the greater and the lesser.
The black-necked stilt is a breeding bird on Curaçao. It is a resident on the island throughout the year. During the winter months, groups may form up to hundreds of birds, together with the migratory stilts from North America. It is a medium-sized black and white bird with characteristic long pink legs and a long pointed black bill. In flight, the long legs trail behind the tail, which is a conspicuous sight. Stilts are very inquisitive, wary, and noisy, and alert all surrounding bird life at the slightest sign of danger. Black-necked stilts wade in quite deep water to forage for food. This feeding habit often brings them in close company with foraging flamingos. Lesser and greater yellowlegs are often seen mixing with black-necked stilts. The difference between the lesser and greater yellowlegs is their size. The greater yellowleg is bigger than the lesser yellowleg. They both have characteristic yellow-colored legs, but the joints of the legs of the greater yellowleg are thicker. Another difference is the fact that the bill of the greater yellowleg is longer than the width of its head and upturned towards the end. The bill of the lesser yellowleg is straight and of the same width as its head. Both lesser and greater yellowlegs are present throughout the year, but they nest in June and July far to the north in the boreal forest region of Canada and Alaska, and are one of the more common North American migratory visitors of the island. The lesser yellowlegs are more common than the greater yellowlegs.
Hey, look at a duck in the middle there. That's a rare bird. It's called the lesser scaup. You don't see it every day. They migrate here from North America in the winter.
The lesser scope is also a winter visitor from northern North America, where most of them breed in Canada and Alaska. Its presence depends on the availability of fresh water, so it is usually seen after heavy rainfalls. It is characterized by yellow eyes, a bluish bill with a small black tip, and a small bump or peak on the back of the head. The male has a black head, while the female is brownish. It is most recognizable in flight, when both male and female show a broad white wing bar. The lesser scope is a diving duck that sifts through the bottom sediment to find vegetable matter, but it will also take insects and fish.
Hey, you hear that? Whistling. Oh yeah. Over there you see that group of ducks over there. Those are the whistling ducks, black-bellied whistling ducks. They whistle when they fly, even in the dark, even at night when they fly over.
The black-bellied whistling duck is originally from South America, but when some permanent freshwater ponds were formed on Curaçao, this duck established itself here. They seem to readily adopt human-altered habitats, and this has helped them move into the southern United States in recent decades. It is easily recognizable by its bright red bill and its pink feet. But usually people first notice it because they hear their characteristic clear hissing whistle.
There it is. Look,
Yeah,
that's a green heron.
They're small herons, and they're usually a little bit hiding away. There are many of those in Curaçao, all around in every water part, often in mangroves, etc.
The green heron is a resident breeding bird on Curaçao. The bird is hard to spot because of its color and secretive habits, but it is the more common of the herons. They always retract their heads, so they look smaller than they actually are. Especially the juvenile of this bird can be mistaken for the rare striated heron from South America because of the similarity of the plumage.
But why is it called green heron?
Because in certain light, when the sun really falls on it, the sunlight comes on it, then it has a green sheen.
The adult green heron has bluish wings, and the sides of its neck are chestnut brown, with a white line on the foreneck, throat, and breast. The immature green heron is brownish, with heavily streaked neck and underparts. Unlike other herons, the green heron does not wade in the water, but looks for its food from along the edge of the shore. If you kindly ask the staff at the sewage water treatment plant of Kleinhofje if you may observe the birds, there is a very good chance they will let you in.
Yeah, I'd love to go bird watching again. It's very fun.
We're here at the area of Jan Thiel. The resorts in this area really have a bird paradise in their backyard.
The nature area of Jan Thiel is a conservation area within the Island Development Plan of Curaçao. This is based on both the natural and cultural historical values due to the presence of the formerly used salt pins in the area. The area is definitely important for water and seabirds.
The origin of areas like salinas like this is when during the glacial period, about 25,000 years ago, the seawater level was much lower than now. And at that time, gullies were formed and dug out a lot of the area. After the glacial period, sea level rose, went up and filled the lagoon. Then in some areas, like this one, the entrance was later closed up by coral debris by storms. This created a hypersaline, a very salty area most of the time. Of course, if it rains a lot, then it gets much fresher.
On a small islet and on the salt pond dikes, common terns and least terns breed from April to August, and many shorebirds will use the shores during migration and winter.
So here we have a total view of the Salina of Jan Thiel. The island right in the middle is a small island where often terns come to breed, particularly because it's inaccessible. so no predators can come easily to, and no people can come easily there. Particularly during the winter time when the migrants come in, you may see a lot of plovers and sandpipers. In the summer, most of them are way up north.
The least sandpiper is one of the smaller sandpipers on the island. It is a dark brownish-gray bird with a white underpart and a streaked chest. It is often found in mixed flocks of other sandpipers of similar size, but then readily distinguished by its greenish-yellow legs instead of black legs on the other ones. The least sandpiper is a regular visitor from its nesting grounds in northern Canada and Alaska. It is seen throughout the year, but with higher numbers during migration and winter. It is seen on muddy shores of inner bays and freshwater ponds where it forages for small insects.
Least terns you can recognize as they're the smallest ones, but also that they constantly flap their wings while flying. Other species of terns may soar once in a while.
Terns are characterized by a white-grayish plumage with a black cap on the head. The royal tern is one of the larger terns with a stout orange bill and black cap that ends in an untidy crest. It is a coastal bird that perches on obstacles jutting from the sea surface and plunge dives after fish. It is the only tern found regularly throughout the year on the leeward coast. In winter, migrants from North America also join. The common tern is also light gray and white with a deeply forked, dark-edged tail. The determining feature of the common tern is its orange-red bill with a black tip. This bird breeds on reef islands, dams in salt pans, and islets in inner bays. They are most numerous between April and November and are joined by birds from North America during migration and winter. The least tern is the smallest tern on the island. It is also grayish-white with a black cap, but it has a white forehead. It has a yellow bill with a black tip. Unlike the royal tern and common tern, the least tern's two largest outer wing feathers are dark and conspicuous in flight. The flight of the least tern is very erratic, and when breeding, will attack any intruder. This tern is also a breeding bird found in loose colonies on coastal rocks, but also on dams and salt pans. They are most numerous between April and September.
There are about 80 some flamingos here. Sometimes the numbers are bigger, sometimes smaller. We just passed through one of the gullies which fills up this area in case of a heavy rain. And I mean really heavy. That means that all this area will flood and will introduce a lot of fresh water. Because of that, there will be changes in the ecosystem, and a lot of the normal foodstuff of the flamingos will temporarily die off. And in that case, the flamingos go. They will fly to Bonaire, to other Salinas, maybe even to Venezuela. Flamingos are a nomadic species, and the southern population of flamingos, which mainly breeds in Bonaire, although once in a while also in Venezuela at the eastern entrance of Lake Maracaibo. But their whole foraging area is from Rio Magdalena in Colombia up till the Amazon in Brazil and all along the coast of North and South America. But the main breeding area remains to be Bonaire.
Of course, everybody knows the flamingo, the distinct pink-colored, stilt-legged, long-necked flamingo. The flamingo is a common visitor on Curaçao, and you can usually spot them at the salt flats of Yantil, Yancock, or the Salinia of Saint-Mihiel. But they have also been spotted occasionally in freshwater ponds like the Mausenberg Dam. You will usually find them in shallow waters where they sift through the sediment for various invertebrates and vegetable matter. During courtship, it is easiest to distinguish males from females. The flamingos namely have a courtship dance in which they march around with stretched necks. This is when you can clearly see that the males are larger than females.
In the back there are a large group of flamingo. It includes a few juveniles. Those juveniles are grayish, and they were probably born about 2 months ago, up to 2 months ago in Bonaire. And they can already fly. After about 2 years, these flamingos get a full color of pink or dark pink. They get it through age, but primarily also through their foodstuff, small crustaceans which they feed on in the water. Once in a while we see here a much larger tern-like bird, which is the black skimmer.
The black skimmer is not a frequent visitor to Curaçao, but in recent years it has been regularly spotted at the salt flats of Yantil. It originates from South America. The most characteristic feature of the black skimmer is its narrow, knife-thin red bill with a large black tip. The lower mandible is longer than the upper. This enables the skimmer to literally cut through or skim the water with its lower mandible to collect food from the surface. This skimming causes traction, and that's why it has unusually long wings. If you go right around the pond, you will be able to see the flamingos up close, but also different terns and sandpipers. This area is an important breeding area for water birds and seabirds, so please do not disturb this area during the breeding season. For terns, this is from May to August. The area of El Veve belongs to the Ministry of Public Health and Environment, and part of it is mainly used for agricultural purposes. The area of El Veve is connected to the sewage wastewater treatment plant on the Curaçao. Treated water from the plant transfers to basins and ponds on the El Veve premises. This provides permanent freshwater areas at El Veve that attracts many species of water birds, especially ducks, coots, egrets, and herons.
Today is Global Big Day, the 13th of May. It's held every year. And the idea is that around the world people will count as many birds as possible in that one day. There are 17 cormorants on the tree all the way in the back there.
The neotropic cormorant, originally a regular visitor from South America, is nowadays a non-breeding resident on Curaçao. It is a relatively large but slender all-black bird with a long neck, a characteristic orange hooked bill, and a rather large wedge-shaped tail. The cormorant surface dives for fish, using its feet for propulsion, and can remain submerged for a considerable time. Cormorants like perching among mangroves or any other object sticking out of the water. You can regularly spot them resting with their wings extended, either to dry their feathers or just to warm up in the sun after a long dive underwater.
Black-crowned night heron. Maar dit is een juvenile.
As the name implies, this heron is usually active at night. During the day, it roosts, and therefore can be harder to spot. It has a hunchbacked appearance as it always withdraws its neck, keeping its head almost between the wings. Black-crowned refers to the fact that in adult plumage, it has a significant black area that goes from the back to its crown. The wings are light gray with a white underpart. It has characteristic red eyes. Formerly, this bird was a visitor from northern South America, but has become a more permanent breeding resident since the establishment of permanent freshwater basins on the island.
Those are least grebes, the small ones you see, the tiny small divers. Nowadays they breed here. Grebes are a group of birds which they're recognizable as compared to ducks. They're much deeper in the water. They can dive quite a bit. Grebes as a group are related mostly to the flamingos, but okay, that's genetically.
The least grebe and the pied-billed grebe look very much alike. They both are very small, roundish birds with no visible tail. The pied-billed grebe is only slightly larger and more robust than the least grebe. The most visible difference between the two is the conspicuous yellow-orange eyes of the least grebe. The pied-billed grebe's eyes are dark brown. Another distinction is that the least grebe has a thin, pointed black bill with a white tip, whereas the pied-billed grebe has a thick, chicken-like, white-grayish bill with a broad black band near the tip during its breeding season. Both birds feed underwater on insects or their larvae, small fish, and crustaceans. Compared to the least grebe, The pied-billed grebe needs more space in water. The pied-billed grebe is very awkward on land, and that is why it almost never leaves the water.
They keep the babies on their back,
On the back.
as long as the babies are not big enough to swim themselves.
Even the chicks of both birds look very much alike. They both have striped heads, but the least grebe chick has more white stripes on the side of its head and white dots on the top of the head. The pied-billed grebe chick only has brown stripes on its white cheeks, while its head is brownish.
Er is volgens mij ook een koereiger, toch? Daarachter?
Ja, daarbovenop.
Ja. En dan heb je 2 witte reigers daar beneden.
4 different types of egrets can be spotted on Curaçao. All egrets are white, so the distinction between the 4 species must be found in other characteristics. The cattle egret is the smaller one of the egrets, mainly because it moves in a hunched position with its neck withdrawn. It is completely white with a rather stout yellow bill, yellow eyes, and greenish yellow legs. The snowy egret is the most numerous of the white egrets. It has a yellow facial skin before the eye. The whole bill is black. The legs are also black with contrasting yellow feet, and hence its popular name, Lady with the Golden Slippers. It is a breeding bird and may be joined by birds from North America during migration and winter. The great egret is the largest of the egrets. Its yellow bill and black legs and feet also distinguish it from the other egrets. The 4th egret is the reddish egret. This egret is easily distinguishable from the other egrets because it's a gray slate color, a reddish head and neck, and gray-bluish feet. The bill is pinkish at the base and black at the tip. This egret also exists in a completely white morph. A fun fact of the reddish egret is that it sometimes spreads its wings while hunting, forming an umbrella of shade to attract fish, which can become a funny hunting dance. To visit this area, contact Carmabi so that permission can be asked to enter the El Veve area under guidance. The Mausenberg Dam is located right in the middle of the densely populated area of Suffisant. If you look for the Calle Fort de France behind a residential neighborhood, you will find the dam. The dam at Mausenberg is an artificial freshwater pond that was built in 1915 by the Royal Dutch Shell to collect fresh water for industrial cooling purposes. Although it is not used for this purpose anymore, the dam is still being preserved. The area is a Ramsar site, and in years of heavy rainfall, one of the most important areas for water birds on the island, and has unique records of species.
Ramsar is the name of a city in Iran where the wetlands treaty was actually signed. Originally it was a treaty for wetlands for the benefits of waterfowl. One of the conditions, the obligations a country has to be part of this treaty is that it would designate at least one area as a Ramsar site which has international protectionist way and should be managed in a system they call wise use. When there is a lot of water, waterfowl will come, and it's a bird's paradise.
The Mausenberg Dam collects fresh water during heavy rainfall in the rainy season, and therefore plays an important role in recharging groundwater reservoirs and survival of animals, especially birds.
One of the favorite species here are the coots, the Caribbean coots. Actually, nowadays it's called American coots. They had split the species at one time, but they still think it's a single species now. It's black with a white shield in front of their face, and their legs, they have very long toes.
The American coot is dependent on the seasonal availability of freshwater ponds for breeding. On Curaçao, successful breeding of the American coot has taken place at the Mausenberg and Malpais dams. At Mausenberg, hundreds of coots are regularly observed, and breeding occurs predominantly in the 3-month period between January and March, immediately after the rainy season, when there is enough water behind the dams. Both areas have been designated as Ramsar sites.
What is that bird over there? There.
Yeah, well, that bird may look a bit like a coot, but it's different. You see, it has a completely red shield, and it looks very much like the European moorhen. This is the common gallinule. Actually, it was taxonomically split from the moorhen about 6 years ago, and mainly because the main difference is the call, and ours laugh.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
The common gallinule, you might say, looks like the American coot's little cousin. It is a small black bird with a red frontal shield and a red bill with a yellow tip. It has long greenish legs and toes. The common gallinules on Curaçao are of West Indian origin. They have become breeding birds since permanent freshwater ponds came into existence on the island. The long toes make it possible for it to walk on soft mud and floating vegetation. It forages while swimming, walking on land, or climbing through marsh vegetation. It is an omnivorous bird. Major food items include leaves, stems, and seeds of various water plants. It also eats fruits of terrestrial plants and insects and mollusks. Other migratory and nomadic birds use the area of Mausenberg for overwintering or as a breeding habitat. The pied-billed grebe and the white-cheeked pintail have also been confirmed as breeding residents. Flamingos occasionally feed here in groups of up to 170 birds.
If you look there is a group of 2 species. May look like 3. But what they are is the white-cheeked pintail, which is a species which is here